Comic Book Savant, episode 343.
I know this. This I know. All that I have, all that is me, resides inside my poetry. And every time I write a rhyme, it might be the line that sets mine free. And also, I know that I don't.
Welcome to the Comic Book Savant podcast. I'm your host, James Harris. This week, we're going to be talking about all the fall TV shows. If you've followed the podcast for any amount of time, you know I do a fall TV preview, and then I follow up doing a full season review, a recap of the shows and my thoughts and where I think they should go going into the next season, to give you guys a rough guide if you've fallen behind or not followed all the comic book shows, because there's so many of them out there that you get a chance that you can binge watch and check it out during your free time. Since we're now into the summer months, if you have some free time, you can get caught up on some of the shows going into next season to help you figure out what you're going to keep up with and what you're going to let fall to the wayside. But before we get into that, as always, I love to give a shout out to my friends over at the Comics Podcast Network. You can find them over at comicspodcast.com. If you like comic book related content and you want more of it, it's a great landing page to go to. There are literally hundreds of different podcasts listed there that are comic book related, broken down by publisher, team, theme, individual characters. You can find a single person podcast like myself. You can find an ensemble, the roundtable podcast. There's so many different genres and flavors. Just stop by the comicspodcast.com to the Comics Podcast Network, and you will find something great. So definitely take a moment to stop by there and check out check out all the collaborators there, because there's so many good podcasters out there. So if you, just like I said, you're hungry for more comic book related podcasts, stop by there and give them a try. Last but not least, I'd like to give a shout out to my sponsor for this and every episode, which is InStockTrades.com. If you're not familiar with the service, they are an online retailer of trade paperbacks and trade paperbacks, omnibuses, all types of collected and bound editions. They have some of the best rates that you have going around, as far as discounts ranging from 35, 42 up to 50% off. If you check out their deals of the week, which they have listed on their homepage, they have a growing listing. It's about 5 to 7 books that they have updated weekly that you get 50% discount on. So it's great savings. If you're a U.S. customer and you buy $50 or more, you get free shipping within the U. If you're a U.S. customer, if you're happy to be an international customer, you get all the great savings, but you don't get that extra bonus of the free shipping within the U.S. But they do have some of the most competitive shipping rates around for international shipping, so don't worry about it. You still save a ton and still get a great deal. So if you have a moment, definitely check out InStockTrades.com. Let them know you heard about them here on the Comic Book Savant podcast. It'll really help out. And before we get into the episode, I told you guys I had been working on something with InStock Trades. I hadn't, we did one giveaway a couple of months back. We're leading into the summer months. Next month will actually be the 11-year anniversary of the podcast. I wanted to do something big and something different, so I was talking to Cameron, the owner over at InStock Trades and DCBS, if you're not Discount Comic Book Service, their sister site. And we came up with a good thing. We're going to do a anniversary contest. Last summer, I had a lot of stuff going on. I was unable to podcast through most of the summer. It was kind of like I took a hiatus, unintended, but it just kind of happened that way. So I wasn't able to do a big contest to celebrate the 10-year anniversary. So I figured it's a year later. I wanted to do something big for you guys for supporting the show for so long. So we're going to do an 11th anniversary contest. It's real simple. We're going to give away 3 prizes. We're going to give away a $75 gift certificate, a $50 gift certificate, and a $25 gift certificate to InStockTrades.com. Cameron and the team over there was, awesome. They agreed, with me that we wanted to do something big. We normally do like one or two. In the past, when I've done different contests with them, we kicked it up a notch and had different tiers to it. If you want to participate in the contest, it's real simple. You just subscribe to the YouTube channel, which you can find at youtube.com/Comic Book Savant. And you also follow me on Instagram and share that Instagram post out with the hashtag Comic Book Savant. All the entries that I get between at the time you're hearing this episode to August 5th, 11:59 on August 5th, PM, that is, all those entries that I get will do a random drawing for those three prizes. So again, you can get a grand prize of a $75 gift certificate, a second tier prize of a $50 gift certificate, or $25. So like I said, this is the biggest giveaway that I've done. It's relatively simple. Again, the YouTube channel is youtube.com/Comic Book Savant. Subscribe there. Follow me on Instagram and just tweet out or shoot out a post on Instagram with the hashtag Comic Book Savant. I can search those up, and like I said, I'll do a random drawing for those three prizes. I thought it'd be pretty easy to enter in. I used to do email entries, but really, who emails anymore? I don't even email anymore. They go through social media. So I thought this would be a good way to spread exposure to the show and then give back to you guys, because you've been so awesome. This past year has really been phenomenal. You guys helped elevate and get me out to places. You've motivated me to, I've talked about the YouTube channel for the longest time. Thanks to you guys and your motivation, I got the YouTube channel up and going now, putting out consistent content that's different from the show on there. You get to see my ugly mug weekly. I'm getting on social media, which was another big hurdle for me, all thanks to you guys. So I'm trying to grow that out and just trying to give some love back to you guys for the love you've given to me for the past 11 years, but so much more this past year, helping me, get out further and to more people. So again, this is my way of kind of giving back. So again, start shooting in those entries. And, again, when the 11th anniversary show comes up in August, I don't know when I'll record that. It'd probably be the 5th. It'd be like the 7th. So again, you have a whole month from now to get entries in. Of course, because how you're doing it, it's only one entry per person. I thought that was fair to give everyone a chance to potentially win at the contest. So definitely be on the lookout for that. Now, getting into some of these shows, the shows that I'm going to talk about are the same shows I covered in the fall TV preview episode for 2017, which is The Flash, Arrow, Supergirl, Legends of Tomorrow, The Walking Dead, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and Star Wars Rebels are the shows that I follow the most, and I watch all the seasons of all the shows and totally are caught up. So these are the ones that we're going to go back and review this episode. First, we're going to start off with The Flash. This is, I would pretty much say, it's not the flagship show. I think the flagship show is still Arrow, because that's what everything on the CW with their, they call it the Arrowverse, is built around. But this is their second highest rated show. It might outrate, excuse me, as far as popularity right now. The Flash might be the most popular show as far as the CW Arrow, I quote, Arrowverse shows. It was a rough season for the Flash. I feel like the first season was phenomenal of the show. Season 2 was, to me, not as good, but it came around towards the end. This season kind of was a hot mess. We're 3 seasons in. The storyline, I felt like they followed the same beats, and we've had this problem with the CW shows. We had this problem with Arrow until this season, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. But The Flash has followed some of the repeat story beats over and over again, and ultimately what it made me realize is that I wouldn't hate, instead of having 22 episode seasons, that maybe they shorten the seasons down. Legends of Tomorrow, which they added, went into a second season, is only like 16 episodes. And I think maybe they could benefit if CW didn't even go 16, maybe went 12 to 16 episodes, so the storytelling would be tightened up and there's not so many gaps in it, because I feel like overall doing 22 episodes, certain times they don't have enough story and it's so much filler that it ends up hurting the overall narrative of the show by having to fill so many episodes and stretch out and decompress stories to make them run the course of 22 episodes. I think one of the standouts for the season was clearly Danielle Panabaker. You know her as Caitlin Snow and her turn as Killer Frost. And I think Carlos Valdez as Cisco, they really shined this season and really, really were standouts, which, they've been, side characters from the beginning, but they really gave them both interesting story arcs in the course of the season to really come to the forefront. And I feel like they saved the show in a lot of instances. Not saying that the other actors, they have one of the greatest casts as far as the different CW shows, just far as their overall chemistry and buying into the whole concept that they're a team and that they're a family. And they put some hurdles in their way to challenge that more so than they have in previous seasons this year. And they really rose to the occasion and showed that they got the chops, as much chops as Grant Gustafson and Candace Patton and, Jesse L. Martin as well. They gave them really some meat. And I really appreciated that, because I've been wanting to see that from both characters and them really to evolve. I think, again, CW has relied too heavily on the whole speedster as a main villain concept, and they went through it all 3 seasons. We've had the main villain be a speedster. I mean, they did a twist, and I'm not going to spoil it. They kind of did a twist on it this year, and it was an interesting twist, but it was how it was set up, it was kind of telegraphed early into the season. So when it was finally revealed, it was like, okay, I thought so. And it was like, so I don't know if it carried the impact that they might have wanted it to do. I think also one of the notes that I have here is that that I felt like I don't think they did a good job developing Iris's character. I felt like she fell too much into the stereotypical damsel in distress. A lot of the season was she was a main plot point during much of the season, and because of that, it felt like they sidelined her character more so than they've done in other seasons, and it hampered her development. And with Wally and Joe, I felt like more time could have been set up to develop their characters, were more so a lot of their storylines and things they had them do felt like filler. That time could have been more focused to, in that process, you still could have told the stories that you were telling, but dedicated more time to fleshing them out in the process. And I felt like it wasn't that balance there in the writing to develop those characters as much as they did with Beats, with Caitlin's character, the Caitlin Snow character, and the Cisco character. They did a good balance with them, and they fleshed those characters out and kind of lacked with the main storyline that they were doing, because it was centered around the West family, that and with Barry, that the character development lacked over the plot points of the family. I was really disappointed, especially with the build-up around how last season ended with the whole setup of them doing Flashpoint, that they didn't spend enough time on it, and it didn't resonate or carry the weight that it did in the comics in the television show. It really could have been more time dedicated to being in that world, or repercussions coming out of his actions, where ultimately it was repercussions for his actions, but not quite in a way that was satisfying in the end, because it was so far removed at that point. It was like an afterthought when it came back up to, here's the consequences for your actions type thing. So again, it just seemed like the balance in the writing wasn't necessarily there to hit all the points. That they've done a really good job in season 1 and at times in season 2 as well. I'm still invested in the world and definitely in the characters. They do a great job on the CW shows to make you care about the characters. I think it was the first main objective of any show or movie, is that you're going to be invested as a person watching the show, as a viewer, if you care about the characters and you care about what they go through and how they handle it. So I'm still invested in the show because of the characters. Now, where the storyline is going, I can say this season compared to, I was on the fence coming out of last season, and I didn't think season 2 was nearly as strong as what season 1 was, because I felt like I saw shades of Arrow in those first 3 seasons or so, where they kind of, we got a formula that works, we're going to repeat. And so I felt like for the first time, the good outweighed the bad in season 2 for me, to keep me on board, invested in the show. I feel like for the first time in the Flash's history, going into season 3, I'm not as much as it didn't. This season didn't redeem itself, far as the good outweighed the bad. It's some really good, far as, again, the character moments, because I'm invested. You've made me care about what happens to the characters, but just overall with the story and the plot, I'm not too excited going into next season and season 4 of The Flash. I will keep watching it. I'll keep talking about it, on the show. But my anticipation level, or my expectation level, is the lowest it's probably ever been when it comes to The Flash. I still think this season is worth a view if you're a diehard fan. If you've been on the fence or you haven't watched it since season 1, it's something that you can be on the fence. I would give it a rating of a good watch. When I do my television reviews, I have a particular scale. A good watch is between, on a numeric scale, is around a 6 or a 7. I would say for me, good watch is between a 5 and 6. I feel like it's a 6. It's not horrible. It's entertaining. It's not good as it just doesn't compare to previous seasons of the show. My expectation level going into season 4 is about the same. It's a good watch. I'll put it, it's not a 5. It's a 6. So it's better than average, but just slightly at this point. I feel like it has some room to redeem itself. I hope they do. We have San Diego Comic-Con coming up. They normally do like a teaser trailer, because they'll already be in the middle of filming the first few episodes normally. So hopefully by the end of the month, we'll get our first teaser trailers for the new CW shows going into the new season. So it'll be interesting to see if that is able to get me excited about Flash again. At this point, I'm kind of on the fence, but I will continue to follow it, because again, it's what I do. It's what I love comic books, and we have so many different shows, and it has time to redeem itself. And on that segue of redemption, I'm going to talk about Arrow. Arrow had a phenomenal season. Arrow was on the ropes in a lot of people's opinion, coming, after the previous season. And it was one of those weird things where I was just done with the show. I talked about it on here a lot, and it was just like, I couldn't do it. It became less a superhero action show and very much more of a melodramatic soap opera, and I just wasn't feeling it. This, to me, by far, is probably one of the strongest seasons of the series to date, probably since the first and second season. Now, one of the cons I have is that I felt like John Diggle's character wasn't developed well over the course of the season. He was and he's normally one of the most stable and best utilized characters on the show. I felt like his development was uneven. There was a lot of focus on him in the beginning. In the middle there, he kind of faded to the background, and he reemerged. It was just all over the place, and it just didn't feel that they had a handle on what they wanted to do with Diggle's character this season. So they were doing a whole bunch with him, and it just felt really inconsistent. And he's really the rock of the team, that he keeps Oliver on the straight and narrow, and he preaches that family aspect, and he's the backbone. He really is the backbone, and I felt like he lacked that quality through much of the season, and it just didn't work. I don't know if they wanted to, reaffirm him being kind of inconsistent helped Oliver character kind of step up, but that's kind of his role on the team. So it felt like his character took a hit, and I hope they refocus, reestablishing his character back to that backbone of the team role next season and stable out his storylines a little bit more. One thing that I saw throughout the season was the whole Thea and Quentin relationship when they both were working in City Hall. At times it was like how it was written. It was some type of weird. It came across to me. I don't know if anyone else noticed it. If you've watched the show, if you watched the season, that it felt like they were trying to do something romantic with him, but at the same time was, Thea being like, since he essentially Quentin has lost both of his daughters, was Thea being, because she was close to the family, that she was trying to be like a surrogate daughter to him. But then it kind of came at points where I kind of felt like they were trying to hint a romance between the two of them, which was just weird and kind of off-putting, and especially when it was leading up to Quentin going to rehab at the one part during the season, like leading up to that point. Just like the scenes and how they were shot and just how they were played out was like, are they trying to have them be in a relationship? It was just a hard read, and it really stood out to me throughout the whole season. It's just one of the weirdest things I've ever seen on the show. Then it was abandoned, and then Thea left for a while. I really felt like I have never been a huge fan of Thea. I've gone through ups and downs with her character on the show. I feel like Willa Holland has really come a long way during the course of the series with the character, and I felt like, again, it's another character that they were handled totally inconsistent. She was there, then out of nowhere, she was, she left, and then she just popped back up towards the end of the season. I don't know what was going on with that behind the scenes, what led to just like she disappeared for a good chunk of the season and came back. I don't know. But I do like, one of the things that really stood out, I do like they did a great job incorporating all the new characters onto the show, like Wild Dog, Ragman, Evelyn, Dinah, even giving Mr. Terrific incorporating him better into the show. He was a series regular. They did a really good job handling all that. I thought when they were saying they were going to recruit a new team and all the previews leading into the season, I thought it might be a disastrous kind of feat to do, because you already have a pretty substantial staff, cast of characters, and then you're bringing in a whole nother team. But we had people, pieces moved off the board and shuffled around in so many different ways. They made it work, and they did it pretty seamlessly. But I feel like ultimately the repercussions of it is that we had the inconsistencies with John and Thea's character, and even Quentin. Well, I don't think Quentin's character was shortchanged in any way. He just went through a lot off screen and how they played it out. But I felt like they did take these pieces off the board to kind of get them out of sight, out of mind, so they could kind of help flesh out these new characters, to give you something to care about within these new characters. So it was a weird thing to do, but I felt like it the main cast took a hit to bring in this upcoming cast and the different variations that they brought into the show to now you can mix and match a lot better. You have more pieces to play with, and they have just as good a chemistry as the original cast did together. So they did a really good job in setting them up and establishing them going forward, and giving them really interesting storylines and building up good chemistry with the existing cast as well. I loved the incorporation of the Prometheus character, Josh. I think it's Segura. He is phenomenal. He did such a phenomenal job as the overarching villain of the season. I really enjoyed going into the season finale. Not even just the season finale, but throughout the season, he did a really great job using guest stars and bringing back old characters to the show, just to pop up from time to time. And it just shows the great thing they built over at the CW with the Arrowverse, just far as now they have these contracts that these actors are signing, that they can appear across the different shows in the Arrowverse, and they really have taken it this year across the board with all the shows with that cross pollination, that they're all in that same Arrowverse world, making it really work. And it really paid off with this show more than any of the other shows. Maybe Legends of Tomorrow is the only other show that they really seem like they do really a great job with guest star appearances on the show. This, for me, was a must-watch season of Arrow. It really redeemed itself and got the show really did a good self-correction, which I'm hoping it doesn't take them as long to do with Flash, that they can really get the Flash back on track after having a down season last season. Seeing the example that Arrow set, it shows it can be done. So I give it a must-watch, a 9 out of 10. My anticipation level for next season is must-watch. The show ended on a huge cliffhanger. I can't wait for it to come back. We got all the way until October to the shows come back on. It seems like it's going to be forever, but it's only 3 months away. But I can't wait to see where it goes next. They seem like they really have a focus on where they want to take the show overall and the storylines going forward. So probably one of my it is my most highly anticipated CW show for sure going into next season. Next, we're going to talk about Supergirl. Supergirl did the move from CBS with its first season to last year. It was his second season, moved over to the CW, which made sense because it was a CW show anyway, or a Warner Brothers, show anyway. So it only made sense that it was on the CW network. I feel like this show was kind of a mixed bag. It had some growing pains, which were to be expected coming from CBS over to the CW. They made the proper adjustments and story changes that they needed to accommodate the changes that needed to take place. I think the core of this season really focused on the relationships, and I could tolerate more of a soap opera feel to a show like Supergirl just due to the fact that it's a female character and she has relationships. She's looking for love, and they kind of set that up in the basis of the premise of the show with her relationship with James Olsen in the first season, that it's gonna be different in that way because it's coming from a female perspective, and relationships across the board are really important. But how they set that premise of Supergirl up compared to like Arrow started out less as a soap opera and more as a hardcore action comic book action series, and then it kind of got bogged down and lost its way of what's the core of what made the show popular. I feel like Supergirl's strength is the relationships in the stories around it and how it affects her day-to-day life and her being a superhero and wanting a normal life. That's the key of it. And I feel like they did a really good job in handling those relationships across the board with the show, between Kara's relationship with James, her relationship with Hank, her relationship with Wynn, just her with her sister Alex, all across the board. Those help build her into the person that she is and who she is as a hero. She needs that support system for her to thrive as a character, and it felt very organic. It didn't feel forced, and where that was my problem in like the last 2 seasons of Arrow, the relationship stuff was really felt forced. It didn't flow organically. On Supergirl, the relationships and those romantic storylines felt very organic, and all the actors had a really good chemistry with one another, where you wanted to see those relationships develop and go through those bumps, and it didn't hamper the show because it was a part of the premise of what made the show popular in the first season. It's the core of what the show's about. I felt like with Supergirl, more so than any of the other CW shows, that as much as I like the show and I really like the characters and the cast of characters, that this show didn't have enough story to warrant a full 22 episode season. It was very glaring, and it was very much more filler episodes in this show compared to the other shows. Maybe like I said with Flash, 16 episodes, maybe even 12 could have kept that really tight. But the difference between Flash and Supergirl is that the cast has been more established on Flash because it's been out a year longer. So those filler episodes didn't feel as much as filler. It just stalled out certain story beats, where here the filler-ish episodes were really felt like filler, because if they didn't have what's the word I'm looking for? They didn't have that built up as much, that cachet with the characters, that we were invested so heavily in the characters when they did different fillers with them that it could be satisfying, or we were invested enough for it to carry through, because they didn't have much there to do with those side characters. They didn't have them developed as enough to take them down, to give them meat to really work with, the actors to work with, to have us invested, to be like, oh, that was kind of a filler episode, but it was good. They were glaringly lackluster episodes whenever they did fillers, which made it hurt, and which it felt like to me they didn't have enough there to fill out those episodes. So I could deal with Supergirl being more like 16 episodes than 22, honestly, till they really have story in place to warrant it. It works well for Legends, and I'm going to talk about them in a second. It worked well for Legends to have 16 episodes. I think it wouldn't hurt Supergirl maybe going to that format till they flesh it out more, that they could really having 22 full episodes of a season and have enough story to cover it. But it felt like at times they didn't, and it was just, we're going to throw something together in this episode and kind of run with it. I really felt like Siler Lee, she plays Kara's sister, Alex Danvers. I think she was really the standout of the season. Her coming to terms with her sexuality, her relationship, all that really added, and I felt like at points saved the season at point in time throughout this past season, with them having that adjustment. And I feel like it more so was growing pains because of the fact that the show was being based and shot out in LA. They moved up to Vancouver where they shoot the rest of the CW shows. So the show went through a lot of changes. That's a lot to do. And they handled it pretty well, all things considered. I would give it a good watch. Well, no, I would say it's required viewing. So I would give it about a 7 out of 10. Like I said, it was not the smoothest transition. It had some bumps along the way. I feel like it has room to improve. The season finale felt a little flat to me, and it felt like they had an end stinger at the end of the season finale that was setting up the big bad for the following season, and it feels kind of like they're retreading certain material already or certain story beats already, and it seems like that's a hallmark, unfortunately, of the CW shows. So they, get kind of beat up by the fans, and then they kind of self-correct. Again, I'm hoping because they're doing so many shows now. Supergirl is going into season 3. Flash is going into season 4. Arrow is what is going to be, was this season 5 or season 6? I lost count of Arrow. I think maybe this is going into season 6 or season 7 of Arrow. So hopefully they learn to correct from some of their mistakes, but it didn't make me hyper optimistic going into next season. So like I said, it required viewing for me because I just love the cast and I love Melissa Benoist as Supergirl. I just am hesitant going into the next season. So my expectation level is it's going to be a good watch going into next year. So it's going to be about a 6 out of 10 just from where my anticipation level is right now for it. So it's dropping a little bit just based off of how they ended the finale and kind of set up what next season to be. But again, when these previews come out, I might be a little bit more excited. Time will tell. I'm just not chopping at the bit or overly excited from where they left things in the show. Next, I want to talk about Legends of Tomorrow. This is my quirky little show here. It's like a guilty pleasure show. I love what they did during the throughout this season. It had its ups and downs as well. Consistency was, could be all over the place. But they did some really cool things. The season finale kind of deflated me coming off a season, and I thought that was pretty good, an improvement over the first season. They did great character work across the board. I felt like they really grew out the characters of the Sarah Lance character, the Mick Rory character, the inclusion of Nate onto the cast, and Amaya as well. They really did a great job of really making us care about these characters now. And going into only the second season, I felt like we didn't care much about the characters at the end of the first season. But they improved that so much more in the second season. I think Katie Lutz as Sarah really came out of the box this season, stepping up in a more of a leadership role, really took the reins of this show, and her chemistry is great with the rest of the cast. I think the biggest drawback from this season is that I felt like after it came back from its winter break, that the show just lost a lot of momentum and steam when it came back over, and certain bits in the story retreads and doing episodes where you saw the same stuff but from different perspectives, and I mean, I know it's a time travel show. It just lost a little something when it came back from the break, and sometimes that's a tough thing when these shows take holiday breaks and then they come back. I'm going to talk about this Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I felt like a similar thing that I've said it previously when I've done these end of season reviews, especially last year on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., where they came back. It was so good leading up to the winter break, and it went on that hiatus. It came back, and the show just, to me, just went off the cliff and just kind of crashed in. But then it had a really awesome finale, which then brought it back up and had me super hype about the next season. Here, not so much. I cared about the characters enough. It carried me through. The whole inclusion of the Legion of Doom in this season was unexpected, and I really liked that they were using different villains from the other shows, because they're picking heroes from the different shows in the Arrowverse and introducing even new characters. So I thought it was cool that they used the amalgamation of these great villains that they had established on these other shows and put them together to fight the legends, and that really worked for me. I liked what they did with Rip Hunter, the unexpected twist they did with him, and seeing him play a different version of himself was super effective. I would have liked to see more for it to last a little bit longer because he really was killing it. I just think overall the season finale left me a little deflated for what's to come up in the next season. But the first season finale kind of didn't blow me away either, and this season was clearly an improvement. So I don't feel like they're retreading anything at all when it comes to that. I just felt like how it ended just was like, oh, I don't know. It just hit me weirdly. And it didn't, like I said, it didn't raise my level of anticipation. It kind of just, like I said, it kind of was like, oh, they're going to do that and wonder where it's going to go. So it remains to be seen. For me, Legends of Tomorrow is kind of like a guilty pleasure. A lot of people don't like the show. I feel like it's fun. It's not tied to... it's loosely tied to the rest of the Arrowverse. They kind of have free reign to do what they want and tell different types of stories and use different, characters throughout from the DCU, even if it's just for a little episode for a guest appearance. So I really like that spontaneity of the show, and it's just fun. And they have a really good cast that has great chemistry, and they have solid a writing team on Legends of Tomorrow. And I like the fact that it's 16 episodes next to the longer 22 episode format, and it seems like it's just enough. You get just enough of your fill of the show, and they have just enough story to make it to that. Though it came questionable like the last 4 episodes or so, or definitely like within the last 2, that maybe it could have been 12 or 14 instead of 16, but still it wasn't as much filler or that you get with the other shows. So like I said, I feel like the other CW shows could benefit, and they could add another show onto the CW if they cut all the shows down to 16, and you could potentially put another show or 2 on with that. But all in all, like I said, it's a good watch. 6 out of 10. Expectations going into the next season is about the same. That's about the quality of the show. It's a fun watch if you have interest in it, and it's like I said, it's a quirky little show, and so that's kind of where I'm at with Legends of Tomorrow going into next season. It's about the same as what it is now. It's a good fun watch if you like that kind of thing, but it's not. I can tell you now, it's not for everyone. Not everyone's going to like the show, but it's grown on me, and I like it as a guilty pleasure watch. Next, we're going to talk about The Walking Dead. This is the longest running comic book show that we've had at this point on network television. I don't know, this season started off kind of strong. People were feeling a certain kind of way about how they left the cliffhanger about Glenn linger for the whole summer, and then they came out to resolve that. The Walking Dead is such a divisive show at this point. Is well done. I think the biggest hurdle for The Walking Dead is the execution of the production of the show, just the method of storytelling, the pacing. The pacing just seems to be so inconsistent throughout the episodes. They need to become more even in the storytelling. They did certain things experimenting with the format that the show previously had throughout the season, but again, it was all over the place, and certain episodes did a great job with, changing up the way they told the story and the format of just being at one place or 2 places for the whole episode to, doing different shots, following everyone around. But again, they didn't stick with any one thing, and they experimented a little bit too much with it, where I felt like it hampered the flow of the show at times. But the good episodes were great, and then the lackluster episodes were not so much. Jeffrey Dean Morgan being brought on as Negan, we just saw a hint of him in the season finale from the season before. I felt like he really shined through. Negan is a very interesting character. He embodies the character perfectly. He could be terrifying at points, but then he could be really shallow as a character just based on how he's written in the comics, and he's based off a comic character. So at certain times, his character, his actions didn't always translate as much as you might want them to on TV. And I just think it's just the adaptation of the character to live action from from a comic book to the television show. Not everything's going to land perfectly, but it's not Jeffrey Dean Morgan's fault at all. I just think it's just the nature of the character, and bringing him to the small screen is you're gonna run into those problems at times. But I felt like they've done a very accurate depiction of the character compared to what the route they went with the Governor, which he was very so different. The television version for the version we had in the comics, for sure. Again, I like certain things they did with the narrative structure. Again, I just felt like it hampered. They did too much, and The Walking Dead has been notorious for, the producers trying to emotionally jerk us around and to make us care more. And I think they've done it so much that it's really turning fans against them in the show. And when it comes to particular characters, and teasing things, and then and they let it linger and fester, and then surprising. And by the time they pull it back out, people don't care. They've already figured it out, or they just stop watching the show. It was solid. I say that for me, it was a required viewing, about a 7.5 for the season. My expectations going into the next season, that though it was certain things I didn't like about the season, overall I thought it was still solid. I will probably, my expectation level is about the same. It's about a 7 to 7.5. They started the all-out war storyline from the comics, so should be a lot of action going into this upcoming season. I don't know how much longer they could do the show. It just is. I feel like more and more people, just based on what the producers do from time to time with the show, people are caring less and less by the different emotional stunts that they pull with some of their storytelling, and putting characters seemingly in danger, and then just playing around with the viewers. I think more and more people are it's wearing thin. First few times, this is different, they're doing something different. They've went to that well way too many times, and I kind of feel like even though it's getting gangbusters ratings, more and more people are getting frustrated and leaving the show. Some come back, but you see more and more posted all over the internet and like Facebook that people are just fed up with the show at this point. So it'll be interesting how much longer the numbers will stay and the ratings will stay so high for the show if they continue to keep following that same kind of parlor tricks they've been using, if it will start hampering the ratings in a great deal. But, as of now, it's still a ratings beast. So, they at least have another couple of seasons, before they might have to make some tough decisions. But we'll see going into this season if they don't start getting a hit from the audience, because some people didn't really care for, how last season was handled as well, especially towards the end. Next, we have Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I have to say this hands down. Enough people don't watch this show. I understand. If you watched the pilot episode a few years back, the show sucked. I'm not going to lie to nobody. I didn't like the show. But I stuck with it because I'm a comics book fan and I'm stupid. I can go ahead and say it. I'm stupid. So even though I knew it stunk, I kept watching it and it got good. Well, no, it got decent. And then it got better, and then it got watchable, and then it got good along the way over the years. And this was the best season of this show to date. They really, they put it in a later time slot. They brought in Ghost Rider, which Gabriel Luna killed it as Ghost Rider. He was outstanding, and they did something different. They did it basically like, here's the series, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and we're going to have 4 distinctive story arcs that we're telling throughout the season. And it kind of worked. It was like the first part was like Ghost Rider. The second part was like LMD. Then it was, what was it? Hail Hydra. And then I don't know what the last 2 episodes was like, its own little narrative. But it all flowed together as one ongoing narrative, but they had different focuses through different segments. So they were their own, like, one ongoing series with 3 or 4 different trades throughout that season or that year of the comic or the show in this case. And it was different. I think it worked extremely well. It gave the show something unique, and it gave it more focus, because I felt like when the plot lines would go all over the place, and maybe other shows should adapt a similar kind of format. That kind of pioneered it. I think it helped. The ratings weren't the highest. It'll be interesting to see if ABC will renew it past the next season. We know it got renewed, so we know it'll be back for another season, but it's coming in after the Inhumans premieres. The Inhumans, the trailer just actually came out last week. I don't know about that one. They made a big deal about, they shot the first couple of episodes in IMAX just based off the trailer. I don't know. Don't know about it. I don't know. I'm a sucker though, so I'm gonna watch it, but I don't know. It's not grabbing me at this point. But hey, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. didn't grab me in the beginning, so what can I say? I probably would end up loving it if that's based off the assessment. But enough about that. So we do know it's coming back, but it's going to be kind of like a mid-season or early season. I think the trailer said that Inhumans is going to premiere like September. I think the first 2 episodes are going to be in actual theaters because it was shot on IMAX, and then it comes out in September sometime. And I think it's 8 episodes total, and then after that, after a break, they're gonna Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. will come back. So we might see Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. like in October or maybe like November sometime, and then it'll come back on. It left with a heck of a cliffhanger for sure. So it's going to be really curious to see where the show's going. But the May and Coulson romance, that was something I didn't know I wanted till we started getting hints of it, and now it's something I want more of. I didn't like the season finale this year as much as I did last year and the year before, but it did what it intended to do. It left with a super cool cliffhanger at the end, like they did with the season before, that has me highly anticipating the next season of the show. I like what they did with the Daisy character. The character's been rough around the edges since the very beginning of the show. She's really evolved into a really good character, and they made me care about her more than I ever had, and want to see where the character goes next. I think she's come full circle, so she understands where she is, her role to the team, and how much she cares for the team at this point. So I really like to see, now that she's established and she knows who she really is, that her character can go even further, and I can't wait to see what they do with the character. I think the standout performances by far this season was the Mac character and the Fitz character. Mac was played by Henry Simmons, and Leo is done by Ian D. K-Stecker. They were phenomenal for the season, and they had a lot of weight on them during the season. They did a lot of heavy lifting and were the emotional centers of this whole season, and they were so great. So I really think what made this season, between Gabriel Luna and those two guys, they took this show to another level. It's a shame that, the content got a little bit more adult, so I could see why ABC moved it into a later time slot. But with it, maybe because it's on later, that you might have lost some of your younger viewers. You know, I don't know if people are getting tired with the show, but it was really a good season, by far one of the best. But a lot of people didn't make it past season 1 with this show, and I implore you, if you haven't, it's worth a watch. It's not as bad as, you know, if you watch that first season, it was rough. But some shows, sometimes they're not hits out the box. They take time to find their footing and establish themselves, and they get better over time. You know, we can see other shows like Flash started off great, and it's kind of had issues along the way. You know, Arrow was great. It had a couple of bad seasons in there, and they reemerged this past season. So, you know, sometimes you can't give up on a show. We got to support these shows to keep them going, because it has found this footing, and it is a solid show. For me, it was a required viewing. I give it an 8 out of 10. I'm anticipating, it's a must watch for me. Probably next to Arrow is my second highly anticipated show. It just sucks that we got to wait a little bit later because of Inhumans to finish up before Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. starts back up. But I'm really hype about where it's gonna go. Like I said, it was what it needed to keep the show going. At least we get one more season for sure. I'm really hoping by me putting it out there that some of you guys will take the time to hit it up on Netflix, because I think they have a deal with Disney, ABC. So I was just on Netflix this weekend, and they said the new episodes are on there. And I think the CW show. So all the shows that I'm talking about now, if you have Netflix, you should be able to go watch all this stuff during the summer, watching the previous seasons or season, if you just have to get caught up on the past seasons that I'm talking about right now. So that's, you know, a good part. So that's where I say it could be the summer of great binge when it comes to superhero shows. Next, and the last show I'm going to talk about is Star Wars Rebels. Some people are sleeping on this show. It's been 3 seasons now. And it's they announced that Star Wars Celebration that next season is going to be its final season. If you are a Star Wars fan at all, it doesn't matter if you didn't watch the Clone Wars animated show. You need to watch this show if you're a fan. Some people are poo-poo cartoons. I'm a person that if I'm a fan of a property, I'll at least check it out. And the first season was a little rough. It's found its ground in the second and third seasons, and this is a phenomenal Star Wars show. It just happens to be animated, but it is a great Star Wars show. Excuse me. They introduced Admiral Thrawn, Great Admiral Thrawn, which was from the Timothy Zahn books. He was declared as being legends. They brought him into continuity now. I never read those books. I always heard people rave about the books. So bringing him on the show like this, where it made him accessible and giving me exposure to this great character that I've heard so much about over the years, was awesome. Some of the notes I have from this season is that it was some of the problems, because this show's on Disney XD, so you have to balance between the die-hard adult action that you want to have with Star Wars you got to have those kind of kid-friendly episodes in there, and they do this weird balancing act on that. So it leads to having some filler episodes. I felt like they were less filler episodes in this season, but it was still enough at points where it felt like those filler episodes slowed down the momentum that we wanted to go to the core storylines. Another major point was Agent Kallus, his character, his evolution during the course of the series, and his ongoing plot line or storyline through this season was one of the better storylines from the overall season itself. And they have such a great actor doing a voice for him, because Agent Kallus is done by the actor David Aiello. He's been great. He's kind of been in the spotlight. He's been in and out, but he's been a part of the show since the very first season. So it was good to see him get a meteor role, and they kind of led in the direction of the character through the previous seasons and their interactions with him. So it felt where they took the character felt natural. One of the disappointing things from the season is that in all the trailers going into season 3 was the submergence of the dark Ezra coming off of the season finale from the previous season, with Ezra going dark to the dark side. A lot of the advertising for season 3 really was pushing that heavy, like it was going to be like a major story arc, and it really was a letdown on. To me, they discarded that story thread way too early. They kind of put in the finale some thoughts that it might come back up. It's going to be interesting to see, since we know this next season is going to be the last season. I think the Sabine character, voiced by Taya Sakar, was the MVP of the season. They really fleshed her character out and really made her a focal point and brought her to the forefront to this season, and she took the ball and ran with it. And I felt one of the other disappointing things in the season is that the rest of the crew of the Ghosts, Zeb, Hera, even Kanan, I felt were a little underutilized, and it was really the Ezra and Sabine show this season. And I felt a certain kind of way because I've grown to love those characters just as much as I love Ezra and Sabine, but it wasn't that balanced their way. They were just kind of really background characters most of the season. The season finale was the weakest of the 3 seasons by far, but with all the tie-ins they did, the reveals, the characters that tie back into the main story, the crossover they did with Rogue One and those characters, which is going to be more of that because we're in that time frame leading up from the prequels to the original trilogy and Rogue One, because you got to put that in that timeline. So it's really coming down to the wire, and they did a really good job weaving it into to the prequels and to the original trilogy. So it's, like I said, that's why it's such a cool and important show to watch. I don't know if Rebels is on Netflix or not. You have to check. I'm not 100% sure. I did not see it on there, but I wasn't looking for it. But if not, you can, the DVD for season 3, I think comes out the end of August. If you can't wait, you definitely check Amazon Video. If it's not on Netflix, check out Amazon Video or iTunes. You can buy the season pass for, all the previous seasons. It's definitely worth it. It's a great, great show. Like I said, if you're a fan of the movies and of Star Wars in general, it adds just another layer of context to events and characters that we haven't had a chance to see, or if you haven't read, all the different books, they have a ton of series of books, that they're doing that are in canon now that ties in. They've done even a book that's tied to the Rebels TV show. What is it? New Dawn? I have the book. I'm horrible at reading because my attention span is, if it's not comics, I can't concentrate long enough to read through it. I said I was going to get it in audiobook format because I did a couple of Star Wars books. I did the Ahsoka book and Catalyst, which was a prequel book to Rogue One, and it was phenomenal doing the audiobooks on Audible through audible.com to experience that, to go through the books. And so I want to eventually buy the audio version of New Dawn because it's a prequel to the Rebels series. It came out right when the first season of the show came out. So I definitely want to read that. And then the Kanan comic book that I talked about, which also ties into the series, kind of as a prequel with Kanan's background and his relationship with the team and how they came to be, is also a really good series. But if you haven't, I only suggest it after you watched maybe the first season, because it was maybe 12 episodes to the first season, I want to say. Maybe watch the first season, and if you like it, then venture out to those other mediums to get more context. Because if you don't like it, it's not going to be for everyone. But if you try it and you enjoy it, you do know now it's at least one book that's out there. It was a 12-issue comic book series that's out there. So it's other content that ties into it from the larger Star Wars universe. So it can be a deep dive if you want it to be. For me, this was required viewing. Where they're going with the show and knowing it's the final season, my anticipation is super high for the show. They did a teaser trailer for season 4 at Star Wars Celebration. Anticipation's high. It's going to be a must watch for me for sure. Going into the final season. So that's where I'm at with the television shows. It's some good stuff. They all had their own stumbling blocks, but that's with any show. I think because we're comic fans and it's based on material and characters that we know and we love, we can be overly critical. That's why I try to be as fair as when I'm doing these reviews for you guys as possible, and give you all the nooks and crannies that like I said, the phenomenal stuff was the phenomenal stuff. It's some of the other stuff that it was rocky and spotty at points, but it still was good television overall, entertaining television. So don't get me wrong there. I wouldn't sway you or try to lead you in a way of something that was just horrible. If it's horrible, I'll tell you it's horrible. And like I said, some of these shows, are entertaining. They're worth a watch, but you can prioritize based on what I told you, hopefully. So if you haven't watched or haven't got caught up on these, I hope I didn't spoil too much in what I said. And I lead you to check out some of these shows. But like I said, I know with all the CW shows and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., they're definitely on Netflix. I don't know if the new season of Walking Dead is on there, and I don't know if Star Wars Rebels is on there or not. I probably should have double checked that, but I know for sure the other ones, because I happened to see them when I was on watching Netflix, that they all had updated that the new episodes are available for those shows. So you might want to check if Star Wars. If not, you can get it on probably Amazon Video or iTunes, and same thing with The Walking Dead, but it might be on there. They're normally good about getting the seasons on there. I don't know, but you might want to double check to see if the newest season is on there. But with all that being said, that's all I have for you guys. Again, keep liking the show, share it. If you know anyone that's into comics and might be interested in checking out a podcast, or even if they're not, now I have the YouTube channel. It's the Facebook group that I started. It's a link to the Facebook group on the main Comic Book Savant website, or just do a search if you're on Facebook for Comic Book Savant. You should find it in groups, under groups, and you should find the Comic Book Savant group. Add that on. We talk about stuff that I'm going to talk about on the show, what I'm reading, just a way that an open forum where we can discuss comics. It'll be a new video coming up on the YouTube channel later this week. I'm a day behind. Normally I put out these episodes on Tuesday, but just with the 4th of July falling on Tuesday, I just waited to go ahead and record this Wednesday morning. You'll be getting this right after I'm finished recording. I'll be getting this uploaded to you guys. The video I should have out by tomorrow, no later than Friday. I'm going to keep it a surprise what I'm going to be talking about on that. Next week's episode is going to be review of Spider-Man Homecoming. I've already got my tickets to that. I'm going to see that during the weekend. So that review, that will be what next episode, 344, will be a Spider-Man Homecoming spoiler review. For the non-spoiler review, check out the YouTube channel for that. That'll be coming. And that's all I have for you guys. Again, follow me on social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Check out the website if you want to help support the show, patreon.com/Comic Book Savant. But just keep the word of mouth strong, guys. Keep sharing it, spreading the love. I appreciate what you guys are doing. That's all I have for you this week. I'll be back with again next week with another episode of Comic Book Savant, and I will see you guys then. Take care.
And into lyrical wholeness. And I know this, and I know this. This I know, this I know.